Welcome to the 20th episode of Dr. Kamini Rao's Masterclass. It's been a long and beautiful journey to this episode. Definitely all these were worth it. I can't thank you enough for the love and support you have been showing me, my dear viewers, and this support is my strength for going even longer. Never regret a day in your life. Good days gives us happiness and bad days gives us experiences, and every new experience is indeed a blessing. With this, I open the 20th episode with a very unique guest, and I am going to tell you why he is unique. His journey has been instrumental in planning, initiating and conducting clinical studies and trials for many pharmaceutical and biotech companies. Apart from that, on a family front, he is a doting father, father-in-law, a loving grandfather, a caring son, and an excellent husband, all rolled into one. Can you expect such a 360-degree person? One would almost call him a Raymond's man, the total man. Yes, my dear friends, without keeping you in suspense, we are going for the long. Let me tell you, I have the pleasure of introducing to you Dr. S Arvind. Viewers, I would like to tell you that he is the unique person and he is the Raymond's man. Let's go straight across to him. Thank you, Dr. S Arvind. It's a pleasure interviewing you today. Thank you for coming to our studios. Thank you very much.
Namaskara. It's a great pleasure for me to be participating in this ever popular masterclass of yours. I'm glad you said you are going to take me through my journey, because by nature I'm a storyteller. And most importantly, I must point out right at the beginning that I'm not so much articulate like many of your guests who have been here. Nevertheless, I'll do my best to bring forth the varied experiences I've had right from the beginning, and what one thing has led to the other, and how I've been able to translate the skills which I've learned from one job to the other right from my school days. For example, my first school was in North Karnataka in Sindhanur, and we had one teacher for 7 classes. He managed it by delegating it to different class leaders, because he could be in one class at a time only. So what he did was he delegated, but he coordinated and had a certain degree of control, which stuck me right at my young age. And that particular skill I have used many a times in the long career I have had in different areas of the healthcare. The second incident I would like to mention is one of my high school teachers, who I was very fond of and visited him after many years, found that he was practically blind when I went to meet him. And I said, "Good evening, sir." He said, "Yaru, who are you?" I said, "Sir." He said, "No, keep talking. Please keep talking." So I kept on talking to him for about 5-10 minutes. And because of his unique sense of voice recognition, he said, "Oh, you must be Arvind, isn't it?" So that really struck me, that how intense he was in trying to know people whom he taught and mixed with.
I always felt that you have a phenomenal memory, and this has been way back from your childhood, from your school days, and the number of friends you have and the diversity of your friends. It was not only doctors, it was not a question of film fraternity, it is people from all walks of life. What is more important, it was not the friend themselves but the family as well. And wherever it was, you were the family doctor for that family. Whether it was a head to toe doctor, you were always there. So then they would say, "I have this problem, call Dr. Arvind." Now, how did you create that relationship? Because the connect, the relationship, the network, you always made sure whenever you met a person, either you gave your card or you had their card and it was into your mobile phone. Is this one of your tricks?
I wouldn't call it a trick. I think some of it is ingrained in my DNA, because basically I am a people's man. I like to be with people. I like to mix with people. I like to mix with a variety of people. I like to mix with people who have diverse views, agree with them, disagree with them. Basically what it means is that you got to invest in any relationship or any business for that matter. If you invest time, if you invest interest, and if you evoke from them that you care for them, they'll always come back to you without much of expectation monetarily, but you will get a lot of their goodwill and their feelings for you. And I think that was one of the early, as you said, tricks I learned from many people I met, particularly my teachers in school, in high school, college, and even in medical college.
I think you were called a Chami Mishra. Now, where did that come from? Especially when you were with your friends, you were the wise owl. You can call it a wise owl or a goobe, but I think I would call it a wise owl. But that was because you gave a lot of advice to a lot of people, and many of the people that you actually associated with, in your own words, you said you are diverse, but they were certainly not in the curricular or cerebral way, but they had diverse talent with which you were able to sort of imbibe a lot of information that was not necessarily medicine. And therefore there was politics, there was cinema, there was producing films as well as direction, the light boys and whatnot. And for everything you had a story, and this is something that has impressed me all the time. So that's why they always said, for everything there is one solution, and that is Dr. Arvind, the wise Chami Mishra. Is that right?
Well, you are putting me on my pedestal too much. But nevertheless, let me explain to you. When we were in National High School, which I cherish the most, where all my good integrity, ideals, honesty and so on and so forth was imbibed by all of us through our teachers. Occasionally we used to have periods when the teacher wouldn't come or it was a free class. We used to enact dramas on the stage to keep all of us engaged. And I almost always played the role of a tata. You will not believe this. You go and check with my old mates, they'll tell you. And there's another chap, a dear friend, Madhusudan, who played the maga or the mommaga, So it all started from there. And that sprung on to other things like the dramatics. Then that's how I got connected with the backstage issues in a drama, and then films and so on and so forth. So I think it all started from there. So if you go and check some of my old emails of my friends, they often say Tatappa to me, much before I became a real grandfather. So it springs from somewhere, from 1967, 68 onwards.
Having such diverse friends, how did you take up medicine? I mean, what really drew you into medicine? You had such good marks in the PUC as well as SSLC, and why did you go into medicine? That was a long, arduous course, and all your friends, in fact, you can count on the fingers, not any were medical doctors, but you still continued and did well in medicine. So what was the reason you took up medicine?
Yes, I think it goes back. In fact, my first intention or desire was actually to become a steam engine driver, because I lived with my grandparents in Tumkur, and I used to go to a place called Shattihalli Cross, where we would wait for the Bangalore train to pass by, which is the famous steam engine trains, which is so, makes a big impact, unlike the present day diesel and electric trains. Then, I wanted to be a chemical engineer. Then I wanted to go into management. But later on, somewhere I felt where you could combine qualities of having expertise in a core area, serve the people in many ways, as well as evoke sympathy and empathy to people who are in need, was building in me one by one. And then I also looked at some of the doctors who were practicing at that time, who had made such an impact on society, that I suddenly changed direction from the school into the college and got into physics, chemistry and biology, and then got into medical college. But however, I must say one more thing. I was very keen to go out and stay in a hostel. That's why, though I got into several other medical colleges outside Bangalore of greater repute, I didn't want to get into Bangalore Medical College because I thought my parents will make me stay in the house and then I go to the college. I wanted to experience hostel life. So the only option, being in Bangalore but being in hostel, was actually to get into St. John's. In fact, one of my friends who had taken the application gave it to me, and one thing led to the other, and I finally joined St. John's Medical College, where I could spend some part in the hostel, which is a great hostel life, and some time at home as well. And in fact, it was an arduous journey from Jayanagar, where we lived, to get to St. John's those days in 1970s, early 70s. First I had to take a bus, then I had to walk, then wait for another bus or some of my teachers to pick us up and drop us to school and back. That's how we got closer to people who were senior to us, junior to us, and some of our teachers who were actually ferrying us back and forth from the college. So that's how it all started. And
yes, but even looking at the medical college, you had your, good amount of social life, friends, entertainment, but you never gave your studies up for anything. You always did well in your studies, so your focus was different. You had it compartmentalized, almost like a thali meal. Where the rice had to be, it had to be. Where the sabjis had to be, it had to be. But you would not compromise. And at any time, if you had to go and help a friend, you will go and help a friend. And that was something that I found was very, very interesting. And I've heard a lot of anecdotes. Going from the medical college into your career, I found that you went and joined the medical college as a teacher. But more importantly, the part of the career that I am very interested in is, you were in the Mallya hospital today, as we call it, Mallya hospital. But it was at a time when it was a flux, where the Apollo hospital and the Mallya hospital came in later, but you were doing gastroenterology there, and that was interesting. And you were all of about maybe 34, 35 years old, very young. And you had a very good practice in gastroenterology, and needless to say, obviously you had a lot of patients from the high social cadre to even the very class 4 servants, and you treated them with the same kind of empathy, which is what we were sort of associated with you. Having said this, you always had the keen sense of administration there. Wherever you went, getting the lights off when you walked out, making sure the instruments were clean. And how much of that really got the admin side of it, apart from the medical side of it?
Yeah, it's loaded multiple questions you have asked. So you'll have to allow me to answer it in a little bit of detail to make you all know how it happened. First of all, it was serendipity and by a matter of chance that I got into medical administration. For this, one of the first people I'll have to give credit is Dr. P.R. Krishnaswamy, who picked me up when I was a young boy, because I happened to treat his mother when I was doing a bit of general practice in Jayanagar, and they used to live next door. He followed me up, and when he joined the UB group, he gave me a position as a research associate in the foundation, which subsequently I was representing the UB group in the Mallya Apollo Hospital, which was to come up. For various reasons that didn't happen, and it became only Mallya Hospital. At that time, with Dr. PRK's support, I met Mr. Vijay Mallya, and Vijay and me are more or less same age. I'm 18th April, he's 18th December. And I was very impressed with him at that time, being an young, articulate man who had clarity of thought. There's a lot of not so good press about him at the moment, but at that time, at the age of 34, he was the chairman of one of the biggest upcoming group with the most sought after brand even today, the Kingfisher, so on and so forth. And he gave me an appointment order and said, you become the medical administrator. So I told him I don't have any experience in building, completing and administering a hospital, let alone doing this big job. And I'm only 35. And he said, I'm 34 and I'm running a bigger company than it is. So there is nothing that should be an age factor, either young or old. Then I said, I don't have experience in running the hospital. I went on reiterating that. And he said, I'm exactly looking for that person who has no baggage to carry, no piggybacks to carry. Somebody who is fresh, new, unbiased and childlike and has got the obsession to try and create something new for the city. And with the backing of Dr. Krishnaswamy, as well as the words I had with Mr. Mallya, I took up this position. In fact, it is very strange, and I am quite weird in many ways. People who know me well will know that I am also a bit weird, a bit eccentric, and sometimes a little unpredictable. So he gave me the appointment order, and I immediately gave him a resignation letter. And he said, what the hell is this? And I said, if ever you don't like what I am doing, or you feel you have made the wrong choice, all you have to do is put the date and fire me. Fortunately, that never happened. I had a great journey there. And the most important thing what happened in Mallya Hospital was it was a new venture. Probably the first, when there were only two corporate hospitals at that time, Mallya and Manipal. And in building this hospital, it was always felt that hospital should smell of phenol, hospital need not be that clean, there need not be air-conditioned rooms, the billing should be complicated and so on and so forth. So what we did was we adopted the scientific management style of Frederick Taylor and broke down the job component into various bits and benchmarked it with the other specialties or other areas. For example, people tend to benchmark the reception of the hospital with the reception of another hospital. I think you should benchmark the reception of the hospital with the best reception of any hospitality sector. Similarly, the billing has to be benchmarked with something like a hotel, where it will be done instantaneously compared to in a hospital where we still keep waiting for hours together after being discharged. So this was one. The most important thing was the age group was very significant. Most of the people were of my age group. Some of them were my own teachers and senior to us, and few were a bit junior to me. So I devised a way of thinking in my own mind as to how to approach this. I approached my seniors as though I was reporting like a son or a child, giving the daily progress of his or hers in the class or in the studies, which I think they did not feel intimidated about, that they're being bossed around by an youngster. With my age group boys, we used to meet every day in the evening and have a joke so that we de-stress ourselves with what is happening, and encouraged ideas to be brought in and implemented. The youngsters who were there were very unique, very bright, and I had a lot of connections with the United Kingdom, where I had done my higher education and MRCP and all that, and worked in Wales particularly, where I had a good rapport with the management, and particularly with my bosses, Dr. Lewis and people like that. And we were able to establish a very good exchange program for the youngsters to go overseas for training. So with a combination of the tripod of youngsters, my own fraternity and my age group and the seniors, we were able to bring a uniqueness to this system. And most important thing we felt was the patient was the center for all these activities. Patient care was the center. At that time, you also perhaps will remember, there was no marketing, there was no referral systems, and so on and so forth. So of course times change, things have to change, but that was a unique opportunity for us to establish something new and correct. Here I must mention that the committee consisted of few people, and one of them I should mention, with whom I worked much later on, was Kiran Mazumdar. And both of us were in the committee to negotiate and put the first the CT scanner as well as the cath lab from Wipro GE. And the way we negotiated it hard and got it down to the bare minimum was amazing experience, in fact probably for both of us and more for me. At one point I thought, and even went and complained to Vijay Mallya, that this lady seems to be interfering in everything, from changing the floor to the design of the hospital. Then I realized that Kiran has that unique quality of being very meticulous and paying maximum attention even to the minute details. And then of course we hit it on. After many years later, of course, I worked for her.
But this is something which I've seen very unique and very pointedly, which is what I want to ask you, is from being a clinician and a very successful clinician, it is quite difficult for a person who is an active, busy practitioner to be that in the morning and then to be a very active, hands-on administrator of a hospital, corporate hospital, which was almost like first in the state, and you had to look at every small thing because that was an untrodden path. So for everything you had to create that path and you had to see whether it was good or bad. So there's nothing that you could follow on. So how did you manage to wear both the hats, and you excelled in both? Remember that. So
I think, there are a lot of reasons for this. Some I think is what I did, and some which a lot of people helped me to do. Give you an example. For example, I'm an early bird right from the day one. So I get up early, sit down and sort of jot down and decide these are the things I need to do in some sort of priority. Trying to address things in a fair manner by demonstrating that you are also doing the same. So when I was a clinician and an administrator, I used to be with the clinicians like a clinician and an administrator with the management, trying to see both the parties see the other side of the coin. Because there is always this in the hospital, even today I'm sure, you and us, we and you. I think if you are able to bring them across on the same side of the table and tell them honestly that these are the issues, these are the problems, and get them involved in problem solving and solution mitigating, it will help a long way. It is not as though people just keep pouring the problems and you are trying to find a solution as a clinician or as an administrator. I in fact took a lot of the administrative challenges in a clinical way. When a patient comes, what do? You listen to the patient very carefully. I think in administration, when somebody comes with an issue, you listen to them first. Then you formulate a plan. In clinical, you may do certain tests. In administration, you need to do certain fact finding, which is the diagnostic part of it. Then you come to a conclusion or at least probabilities, and then try and find a solution, whether it requires a drug treatment, whether it requires surgery or combination, and so on and so forth. In this process, I think in administration, you must learn to delegate issues, and you must make sure that files don't pile up on your table. In fact, many years ago, I learned that things should be on somebody else's table lying so that you can come back tomorrow and review it. But in all this, I think a great degree of transparency and great degree of firmness with some gentle behavior is very, very critical. I think being soft should not be shown as a sign of weakness. Being soft is your character, but I think being firm is what it demands, should it demand. So I think that these are the things which help, and you have several young people who can lead by example. And often, if you have a cup of coffee or tea with your seniors and juniors mixed together, lots of things are known. Unfortunately, there is in the medical training very tribalistic attitude. In fact, it's only two professions where two areas where people call them chief. We call them head of the medical unit as chief, and the other place they call chief is the tribals. It's very bureaucratic. It may be very haphazard and not systematic. One of the things I try to do is to be systematic but not bureaucratic. Anybody could approach me. My room was always open, and I was prepared to listen to everyone. And then, of course, time comes when you'll have to take certain decisions, and sometimes it becomes a bit unfair when you are administering a larger hospital. But at least the unfairness has to be evenly distributed, and not it should be sort of partiality shown to X or Y depending upon the situation. The most important thing I found is that everybody in the hospital, whether in the administrative section or clinicians, have to get busy. If they are busy, they have less time for doing the other things, which is generally creates more trouble and difficult situations. However, each and every clinician and each and every administrator needs to be chiseled to an extent so they fit into the system like a building block or Lego toy. It is not easy, it cannot be done by one person, it has to be done by a team. So the classic example is a team game, and in India, being cricket crazy, you will realize that one person cannot win or lose a game. It's often a team game, though occasionally it happens that one person does. The other most important thing is you must care for them when they are in need of some help, either clinically when they may be asking for support but they are shy to ask, or administratively also they are scared to ask. One of the biggest problems in our country, in our system, is that we are scared to say, I don't know, let me find a solution, let me find somebody who may know, let me ask. I think if you can break that barrier by making sure that people will get away from this and seek the right answers, largely I think will succeed.